have a song. One specific song. The kind that, when it starts playing, makes you stop whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be stuck in traffic, at the gym, at work. When that song begins, you return to somewhere else. There's something strange about music. It can transport us through time faster than any photograph ever could. But there was a time when carrying all of that in your pocket seemed impossible. Until a Swedish company changed forever the way the world listens to music. From the striking of stones by Homo sapiens, turning noise into rhythm. From chaos came the first melody. From noise came music. This is the story of Spotify. Let me tell you something about the music industry in the early 2000s. It was on fire, literally. And much of that fire was self-inflicted. Record labels sued mothers for downloading MP3s. They sued college students. One of them even sued a 12-year-old child. Yes, 12 years old, for downloading music. It was the kind of business strategy that makes you wonder whether anyone in the room had ever heard of customer relations. CD sales were collapsing. Napster had destroyed the illusion that people would keep paying for an album when they only liked 2 songs on it. And the label's response was, sue everyone? But it was exactly in that atmosphere of panic that 2 Swedes decided to ask a different question. Not, how do we stop people from listening to music for free? But, what if listening to music for free was the product? In 2006, in Stockholm, Daniel Ek and Martin Lorentzen founded a startup called Spotify. Daniel Ek was 23 years old. He had already been the CTO of Stardoll, which, by the way, was a website for virtual dolls. The man who would change the music industry forever came from the world of digital dolls. Irony of fate, or just the most normal thing in the startup universe? The idea was simple. A curious fact about Daniel Ek. He once tried to get a job at Google and was rejected because he didn't have a university degree. If he had been accepted, maybe Spotify wouldn't exist today. So, thanks Google. The goal was to create a service where any song could be played instantly, online and legally. Instead of buying music, you would pay to access all the music in the world, a subscription, an infinite library. Today, it seems obvious. Back then, it seemed impossible. Licensing millions of songs, convincing traumatized record labels, building technology fast enough, getting users to abandon downloads. It was a bet against everything and everyone. Spotify was developed in 2006, but it wasn't launched immediately. They spent 2 years trying to convince record labels that it was a good idea, and not just a different way to steal from them. The app was officially launched on October the 7th, 2008, and even then at first, it was invite-only, like an exclusive party. You wanted in? You needed to know someone. At that moment, using it felt like magic. You typed the name of a song, and it played instantly. No waiting for downloads. No viruses, no corrupted files, no guilt. It was as if the future had arrived early. The free ad-supported model attracted millions. The premium plan promised something even more valuable: music without interruptions. Users quickly began to migrate. But before we talk about growth, valuations, and billions, I need you to understand one thing. Music is not entertainment. Not in the same way a movie or a game is. Music is compressed memory. When you hear that song that played during your childhood, your first kiss, the last time you saw someone who is no longer here, you're not just hearing sounds. You're accessing a version of yourself that may no longer exist. There's a scientific name for this. It's called episodic memory associated with auditory stimuli. The human brain stores emotions alongside music in a way no other sense can reproduce with the same intensity. And Spotify? Spotify understood that better than anyone. In December 2015, Spotify launched Spotify Wrapped. You've probably seen it, a feature that creates a personalized retrospective of each user's most played songs throughout the year. It was basically a mirror, a musical mirror. You looked at it and saw who you had been that year, the songs that stayed with you, the artists that defined you. The moments you didn't remember had a soundtrack. And what did people do? They shared it proudly on social media, as if revealing your playlist was the same as revealing your soul, because it was. They turned nostalgia into spontaneous, free, user-generated content. And they did it using data you happily gave them, because this story has numbers that sound made up. In March 2011, just 3 years after launch, Spotify announced 1 million paying subscribers in Europe. 6 months later, it was 2 million. In 2011, an investment round valued the company at $1 billion. $1 billion in 2011. In 2012, $3 billion. Goldman Sachs led the round. In 2015, $8.5 billion. On April 3rd, 2018, Spotify debuted on the New York Stock Exchange. On its first day, it closed at $149 per share, giving the company a valuation of $26.5 billion. To put that into perspective, that's larger than the GDP of several entire countries. And by September 2024, 640 million active users. Of those, 252 million were paying subscribers. Think about that with me. If you placed all Spotify users into one country, it would be the third most populous country in the world, behind only China and India. But not everything in this story is smooth music. Spotify pays royalties based on share of total streams. It is not a fixed amount per song. It's a slice of the pie. If 0.001% of all songs played that month were from your favorite independent artist, they receive 0.001% of the total distributed. In practice, one stream on Spotify pays the artist something around 3 cents to 5 cents, 0.003 of a dollar. For an artist to earn the equivalent of a U.S. minimum wage per month from Spotify alone, they would need roughly 250,000 monthly streams every month, every single month. That led major figures in music to protest publicly. Taylor Swift removed her catalog from the platform in 2014, declaring that music should not be devalued. Tom York called Spotify the last desperate fart of a dying corpse. And in 2022, Neil Young demanded that Spotify remove a podcast over misinformation. And when the platform refused, he pulled his entire discography. Joni Mitchell, Graham Nash, and India Arie followed the same path. Spotify distributes approximately 70% of its total revenue to rights holders. But rights holders does not necessarily mean the artists. It means the record labels, which then pay artists according to individual contracts. Contracts that often date back to an era when streaming did not even exist. It's like trying to divide a pizza using a ruler from 1920. Spotify is not alone in this fight, and the battle is massive. Apple Music, YouTube Music, Tidal, Amazon Music, Deezer, they all want the same thing, to be the soundtrack of your life. But Spotify has an advantage that is strangely simple and devastatingly effective. It got there first. Not first in terms of the idea. Music, streaming already existed before. But first in terms of experience. Interface, algorithm, habit. And habit is one of the most valuable assets any technology product can have. You don't switch music platforms easily, because moving playlists, losing your history, restarting your algorithm, it's like moving to a new city. You lose your favorite places. Spotify is now available in 180 countries and territories. The only corners of the world where you won't find it are Vatican City, where they presumably don't need gym playlists, and Russia, where the platform suspended operations in April 2022 after the invasion of Ukraine. But there's a layer to this story that goes beyond business, something almost philosophical. Spotify knows things about you that you don't know about yourself. It knows what time you wake up by the moment the music starts playing. It knows when you're working, when you're melancholic, when you're celebrating. It knows when a relationship ended because suddenly you go from upbeat pop to late night ballads at 3 a.m. for 3 straight weeks. It is the only diary you write without meaning to. And that intelligence was built on top of decades of a primitive human instinct, the need to hear music. As long as humanity has existed, music has existed. Instruments from 40,000 years ago have been found in caves. Before writing, before cities, before agriculture. Music is older than civilization, and Spotify is, at its core, the most sophisticated version in history of something we have always done, choosing a song to accompany the moment. Let's talk about a beautiful paradox. Every generation thought the next one was going to destroy music. Vinyl was destroyed by the cassette. The cassette was destroyed by the CD. The CD was destroyed by the MP3. The MP3 was destroyed by streaming. And streaming brought vinyl back to life. True. Vinyl record sales have been growing for more than 10 consecutive years. The people who listen to everything on Spotify also buy records from bands they discovered on Spotify. It's as if digital abundance awakened a hunger for the analog, for the physical object, for the ritual of placing the needle in the groove and hearing that crackle before the music begins. That crackle. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Spotify didn't kill nostalgia. Spotify monetized nostalgia and by accident made people want the real thing even more. Here's what I believe is true about Spotify, about music, about us. Technology changes the form. The feeling never changes. It doesn't matter whether you were listening on a cassette tape through a yellow Walkman or through an algorithm that learned your taste in 3 weeks. That one specific song, the one that stops everything when it starts playing, still takes you to the same place. Spotify built a $26 billion business on a simple and undeniable truth. People need music. Not want it, need it, existentially. The way they need food, love, meaning. And two Swedes in Stockholm in 2006 decided to meet that need with a product so good that today 640 million people carry it in their pocket. It's not an app, it's a time machine. And you're going to use it tonight. I know that.